do the Welcome to the Bridge Art Gallery. We're excited to be here with our amazing featured artists. I'm Cheryl Mack, co-owner of the Bridge Art Gallery with my husband, Christopher. We have two locations, one in downtown Jersey City, but today we are at our Wilmington location in Wilmington, Delaware at 213 North Market Street. We have a phenomenal exhibition here, and we're thrilled to welcome Lana.
Hi, everybody. Lana Abraham-Murawski. And my exhibition's called Transformed. And it's about connecting with my roots, but also taking you to a place where you can feel transformed and you can find, different things about yourself as well. Just to talk a little bit about my background, I did major in studio arts. So I've always loved art as a kid, and I've always painted, or I like to paint these surrealist or wondrous landscapes. And in the landscapes, I tend to use animals instead of people, because I'm using them as symbols to represent either hope, joy, things like that. And I love using a lot of bright colors. And that takes us over to what Transformed is all about. And in Transformed, I am using a lot of birds. I use a lot of birds in my work to represent freedom and taking flight and taking ownership and just soaring, basically.
Well, Lana, you mentioned that it's about your roots.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about where you're from, because I think that really is infused in your work.
Yeah, I'm originally from Guyana. It's in South America. And I came here when I was 5 years old, but I grew up in New York, up and down the East Coast, and I live in Jersey City now. But Guyana is just a wondrous place filled with lots of nature, waterfalls, culture. It's part of the West Indies. And a lot of color. A lot of color. That's where you see a lot of that in my work as well.
Yes, and I think, when you talk about like Caribbean culture, that's what you automatically think. You think about carnival, lots of bright colors, and then of course, the landscape is full of colors. And the people are so colorful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you were creating this particular body of work, how did you tap into your cultural heritage in creating the body of work?
Yeah, so it kind of came from the whole thing about drawing the birds in the first place. Like, I wanted to represent freedom and go back to those roots. And a lot of my birds started to have this tribal gear, and I started to think about the Guyanese culture and the Amerindian culture, that they wear a lot of dress and tribal gear and things that garnish. And I just really love that. Love that feathering and love that look, and I started to dive more into that. And then when I started to think about Guyana and the birds and the tribal gear, I'm like, well, what specific bird, represents Guyana the most, or just represents Guyana or a part of my culture? And so I came along the harpy eagle, which is native to Central and South America. They have a lot of them in Guyana as well. They're big there. And these birds, they are huge, first of all. They're ginormous. They're almost human size. Look it up if anybody doesn't believe me. And they have in their heads already these featherings that are already adorned in this kind of like tribal look. And then they're very fierce. They're very strong. So that's what I kind of pulled out to put into this work, is to kind of focus on those guys as my muse a little bit.
And I know we're going to walk through, 4 of the pieces of this, very expansive collection.
Yeah.
I've always heard, harpy eagle term, but I had to admit I had to kind of do a Google search to actually see the bird, and they are huge.
Ginormous.
But what I love is that their faces actually have a lot of personality to it. Yeah. Almost like, no, you don't want to mess with me. I'm chill, but you don't want to mess with me.
Yeah.
And then I love how you also bring out that personality in each of your paintings, that you see a lot of the kind of general characteristics, but then you see those unique characteristics with each individual one. So as you were creating, each individual painting, did you find that the bird was kind of speaking to you to say, oh, give me some red shoes, or, make my headdress a little bit more tribal than normal? How was the work speaking to you?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Every piece that I worked on, as I got more and more into it, created its own personality, became its own thing, and spoke to one of the various aspects of what I was looking for, looking back in my culture and looking back at my work. One of the things I do also want to bring up when I talk about the harp, because when I was investigating, I had to do my own searches as well. I found that the harpy in Greek and Roman mythology, were these warriors for Zeus and Hades, bringing their enemies down to hell and things like that. But physically, they were female form combined with these birds. And so they were a combination of a bird and a female in general. So to me, I just kind of stuck to that, because I'm like, it's me looking back at my history, finding this bird, now finding this whole history with the female connection. And so as I was doing these pieces, I pulled some of that femininity into it, because one of the other things that I found out were that was not considered a good thing. Like the harpy was considered like a nasty woman, like a bad thing. And I'm like, why are they a bad thing? Because they're strong, they're powerful, and they own it. You know what I mean? And so why is that negative? And so I wanted to kind of highlight that as like, as more of a positive thing: colorful, strong, feminine, and all of that combined.
Yeah, because we all have to be harpies right now.
We do have to be harpies, ladies.
Absolutely, that's my new spirit animal, the harpy. So what I like about the personality aspect and the cultural aspect is that I feel like it's also telling a lot about your personality within this storytelling, as far as picking out these elements that are really unique towards you. When you were creating this body of work, if you had to pick 3 themes that you wanted to come across to the viewer right away, what would you kind of narrow those down to?
I guess it would be, that's a good question, I haven't asked that yet. One major one is strength, and just power and strength. And regardless of who you are, whether you're a woman or not, what you look like, or what the stereotypical this, that, or the other thing is, that you are strong within yourself, and you take ownership for who you are and who you want to be, and you just go after that. That's like one main theme that I'm hoping that is throughout it. The other one that I do try to pull out, maybe not purposely, but I'm secretly doing it, is just to have fun. Like all these colors, yes, it's connecting to my West Indian roots, but it's also to evoke a sense of like playfulness and joy and like wandering and searching and looking into things. And I just want people to kind of connect to that. And then also in the work, there's a lot of symbolic things. There's like things in the background. There's like water towers, things with nature and things like that. So I just want to, let's consider our environment, let's consider our space, think about nature and how we can be more involved with that. That's part of where a lot of my original work came from before I kind of delve into this, but I'm pulling that into this work as well.
One of the things that I admire about all of your work, not just this body, but all of your work in general, is the multi-layered experience of, viewing your work. When you're, standing like 6 to 10 feet away, you notice like the color palettes and some, very like dominant things. And you step a little bit closer, you're like, oh, I didn't notice her shoes, or I didn't notice how she did the nails or the claws. And then you get up closer, you're like, oh my goodness, like look at these patterns, look at what's hidden in the background, look what's in the far distance.
Yeah.
And so I love that for anyone who wants to purchase, because all the work is for sale, that it's a multi-layered experience, that when you're buying the work and you have it hanging in your home, that you're experiencing it on so many different levels and you're noticing little nuances about the work.
Yeah, and I purposely do that. I mean, obviously there's something right in front of you when you come and see it. There's a color, there's a bird, what's happening there, but I purposely put in a lot of little detailing within that and also in the background. It's really hard to see when you're looking at the images with just a photograph. I have so many people come up to me and say, oh, well, when I got to really see it, I saw that there were these little things in the background, like you were saying. Mm-hmm. So it is about that. It is about like what's happening and right in front of us and what those possibilities are, you know, in the background that we can kind of reach for.
And what are the possibilities like in our lives that, you know, everything may seem far away, but as long as you can see it, it is within reach, and you just got to keep moving forward.
Got to keep moving forward.
Women's empowerment. I love it. So how about, are you ready to kind of walk us through each piece? Our technical director, Christopher Mack, has set up all of these wonderful aspects where we're actually going to allow the viewer a chance to really experience the work. So let's use technology here.
Let's use technology. All right.
Okay. So
maybe I can come to this side.
No, actually, you can come to this side right here.
Oh yeah, that's right. I want to be in the picture. Okay, so this one is called the Majestic Ledge. The harpy eagle itself is considered a very majestic bird because of how huge it is and how open the wings can go and so on. So this is the bird. It's standing on a ledge. It's reaching over this vast beyond, and it's just, you know, being proud of like who it is. You can see there closely, there are these little ladders that are coming up. And so it's asking us to maybe also climb the ledge and like be like this wonderful, majestic bird, majestic harpy. And this one obviously is pulling in that whole story I told you about the Greek and Roman mythology, about the female and the bird being connected. So I'm throwing in the heels, bringing a little shout out to, you know, femininity there, and saying, let's walk that ledge, let's climb, let's go after it. Some of the other things is, like I said, some of the vegetation I'm pulling from the Guyanese landscape, like the colors, the West Indian colors, but also these lily pads. You'll see that repeated throughout the works as well, because there are a lot of little lily pads and so on in the rivers and trenches and so on of Guyana. So,
and I'm noticing this landscape in the background, like
the landscape and background. So there's a whole forest and wilderness back there that we're not, you know, sure of, but when you look beyond, maybe your mind can kind of wander and you know, envision what that could be.
And again, this one is called the Majestic Ledge.
Yes.
All right.
Moving on a little bit. So this piece is called Point of No Return. So again, looking out to the dark waters. The water's even darker in this one. But there is a little small, you know, lighthouse out there that maybe could beacon some light, you know, onto your dark water and maybe help guide you. And this bird is the one, what I was visioning for this one was really going after that headgear and that headdress and doing a little ode to that part of the West Indian Amerindian like culture and all the dress that they wear. And then all of that is connected to this sort of unique bridge that have these little egg-shaped things in that are like, maybe there's some more possibility for growth, for things to be born, you know? So the bird is literally having their claws, its claws, onto the canvas, onto the ground here. And so it comes to a point. You're at that ledge, you're at this point where you either have to go across it and take some chances, or I guess scurry away.
All right. And again, this is Point of No Return.
And yeah, you can zoom in too. You can see there's some like things going on in the background. That's some of my favorite stuff, like putting in those little mini details back there as you look beyond. Okay, this piece here is called Bridge to Kayatur Falls. This is definitely giving a huge shout out to Guyana and the Guyanese landscape. Kayatur Falls is a waterfall in Guyana. It actually has it is the largest waterfall drop in the world. And Guyana is filled with a lot of waterfalls. It is also known as the land of many waters. And so that's giving a big shout out to that and oath to that. And then this bridge is literally connecting to the bird itself and her femininity and the landscape. So it's tied into all of it. coming to this part of my culture and my roots. So it's kind of bringing into that. Again, you see the water lilies here and all the things going on in the background. Similar story there. But the bird literally becomes the landscape, and literally becomes, it's all going back to, our roots there and going back to nature.
And what is this representation of this sphere? I see it in several pieces of your work.
Well, the sphere, like I said before, I used to do a lot of wondrous landscapes, and a lot of these landscapes were purposely designed to not look like it's, oh, this is exactly that place I've been to, so and so. It's supposed to look outer worldly. It's supposed to look strange or, odd. And that way, everybody coming into the piece or coming into these landscapes I'm creating are feeling, kind of like, wondering what's going on, a little lost, maybe coming out of there every day, coming out of themselves, and then going in to try to figure out what's happening. So it's meant to feel like you're in another place that's not really exactly familiar to you, and trying to see how you can connect to that. I do have like a lot of bridges and things like that. They are purposely ladders, they're purposely there to kind of literally bridge those connections in your mind, climb, and find those things that are important to you. Those are the symbolic elements like I like to place in the work. So that's doing that. And it's literally being held up by a ladder too. The other thing is it's an orb. And so circles are like, the full completion, right? The full cycle of everything. So that's another reason why I like those round shapes in general.
All right. Yeah.
And so this last one over here is called the grappler. I think this is my favorite. The first one's definitely my mom's favorite, but this is my favorite. And it is all about what I've been saying, when you feel like transformed, you feeling, part of something else, or like you want to go after and do something else. This is the grappler. It's going to go get it. It's going to grab on and take off and go find that thing and do that thing. And, Guyana is part of the landscape there too. It is coastal. It's predominantly rainforest. It shares the Amazon jungle with Venezuela and Brazil. So it's got a lot of forests. It's got a lot of waters. But they are on the coast, and there are a lot of octopus there. That's one of the biggest, things that they have there too. So I wanted to kind of just, connect to that. I just loved how it looked. And octopus is supposed to be really intelligent as well. So I was just kind of connecting to that whole, symbolic elements of what the octopus stood for. And then let's kind of reaching out and going after what we want. Again, highlighting the harpy, highlighting all that Guyanese connection, like little lily pads here and so on. And then you can see even this is a fun one. And I forgot to look in the beak of the other one, but this one in here inside the orb is like a whole nother place that's, not even what's happening over here. This is a whole nother spot, a different world compared to what this world is. So yeah, I like putting in those little nuances. Literally have grappling hooks, hanging off of their wings as well.
Yes, I see several grappling hooks here.
Mm-hmm. There's another octopus coming in from this side, or another octobird or octoharpy. I heard somebody say the other day last night.
And the earring.
Yeah, it's just it's to put some ornate, to decorate, to like we wear jewelry, to just put that in to connect to the femininity side of things, like the heel here again. So it's just giving it a little bit of a, softening it up a little bit that way, the jewelry aspect. Like the first one that is over that we talked about, the majestic light, she's wearing like some beads, some green beads, things like that. So it's just to kind of speak to that part of the female.
Is this the talon ring right here?
Yeah, so they have rings. Yeah, the one with the point of no return has rings. Actually, let's go over to the point of return one that I forgot to highlight. Was like just, you can see all these little worlds, like literally within the beak of the bird that has like all of the, tribal gear is a whole nother world. So it's kind of like there's so many opportunities that are out there for us. And so I'm kind of like, trying to speak to that and trying to connect to that as well, or show people that.
So because your work is so layered with detail, when is it ever done? to you?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I do walk away and try to forget about it and then come back. Like the lighthouse here came in at the very end. I felt like it wasn't balanced enough, and I just thought, like a little beacon of hope, like throw that little beacon of hope in there that's going to spotlight and give you a direction. So it just kind of like I had to put that in there at the end. So just little things like that. I might come back and go back to it. You never know. If I show these another, maybe I added something, but yeah, I try to put little things that come to me and speak to me, and then as much as I can.
So do you see this as an expanding series, or was this just an idea that you wanted to, that this is the fully fleshed out manifestation of that initial idea?
Yeah, I don't know, because I mean, I don't know. I can talk to any artist. Like, is anything ever like ends? Like, you may do something and then think, okay, that was good. I got that. Have another thought, and maybe you want to do it this way. But then you just bring that back around again. Because just for example, like the legs on this one are mimicking a whole giraffe series that I did. So I kind of pulled in these like little hairs and the legs the way that I would have done a lot of the giraffes I did in the past. So that's kind of like bringing back some of the old and putting it into into the new work too. So I may not be done. We'll see what comes up next. I have other ideas of different things already just from talking to people at the opening and so on. So maybe this will expand, or maybe I'll go further and then we'll see.
Now, I know Guyana is where you grew up, and it's definitely your culture. Do you see that as a consistent, that your work consistently represents your culture?
No, and actually, I'll go back. I actually left Guyana when I was 5 years old. I grew up mainly in the U.S., so mainly in New York area, up and down the East Coast, as I was saying before. But Guyana's always been in my culture because my mom's always around. Can't get her culture. So I grew up with Guyanese food, Guyanese people, and stuff. Even though I wasn't really in Guyana itself, I had the culture and everything around me. And when I started doing my work, I started just doing these landscapes, trying to create these wondrous places just to connect people and do my thing about trying to put these little symbolic elements about nature versus industry. And a lot of my original works were more about nature and industry battling itself. And then, when I started doing the animals and looking back and seeing what does all mean to me, then I kind of started to go back and think, what about where I'm from and who I am, and like what does that mean to my work? And so that's when I started to dive a little bit more into what the Guyanese culture and what that was and what that is to me, and how that can be part of my work. And so yeah, it may continue that way. I made grandchildren another tangent, but it'll always be part of me. So there's no way to get rid of that.
Well, I often say that how people look at life through rose-colored glasses. I look through life through brown-colored glasses because I'm a brown girl.
Yeah.
So that's why I was curious. Do you look at life through a Guyanese lens?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess yes and no. Yes, because it is part of me. You're a brown girl can't get rid of being a brown girl, right? It's gonna be there. And I've always liked the use of color, so I think innately, I mean, I like wearing a lot of black and dark things, but culturally, I'm very colorful, right? So that's always gonna be in my work. But the other thing about my work too is I like to do the animals and these symbolic places and these different things so that anybody can connect to it, because I don't want my message just to be this, this, and this, right? I want anybody that's looking at it, male, female, black, white, Asian, Spanish, whoever you are, to look at this and feel a sense of empowerment, to feel like a sense of hope and growth, to be excited by the colors and what's happening, to go off and be a kid and be wondrous about it, and just imagine what if I really live there? That would be kind of weird. Like, what does that mean? What's this all about? And have that a sense of transformation or imagination come to you, and leaving seeing my work and feeling like you have been transformed. I keep saying the code of the show, but feeling different, feeling like if you can go after and do things. That's really it.
So how has this work, creating this body of work, transformed Lana?
It's definitely connected me more to my Guyanese roots. So that's been wonderful, just to investigate the landscape and investigate the different things, because like I said, this is character falls. Some of the other ones I did have references to other parts of Guyana, some of the smaller pieces that we're not looking at today, but have, references to the forests and references to the Demerara River and things like that. So just learning more about my history and my culture was really great to experience. And I don't know. I mean, just, it makes me happy seeing these pieces. So maybe that was a, part of it too.
Okay, so let's just go through the pieces from right to left one last time.
So this is the grappler. This is Bridge to Kayator Falls. This is Point of No Return. And this one is the Majestic Ledge. It's my mom's favorite.
And shout out to Mom.
Shout out to Mom.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So this has been a walkthrough. Have we had any questions or comments from the audience? Do we have any questions? If you have any questions, please put it in the chat. Do we have any questions from anyone here? I'm sorry, say that again. Okay, that's the comments from the comment section. We love the comment section.
If that's the other comment, I'm good. I'm good. Let's get it.
So this work is going to be on display at the Bridge Art Gallery until the end of October. You can visit us at bridgeartgallery.net to get more background on the work. You can also follow us on Instagram, and of course, you're on our virtual community right now if you're watching this. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Lana, for sharing.
I want to say a big supersonic shout out to you, Cheryl, and Chris behind the scenes, and the Bridge Art Gallery for showing my work. I massively appreciate it.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure to do that. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day and weekend and make it artful. Bye.